When I met this patient, she was literally bedridden. She couldn't do many things. She was suffering from debilitating back pain, and she needed to be assisted with a wheelchair to get to her medical appointments. After going through the process of healing, she wrote this sharing. Recently, I even began dancing again. I exercise every day. I run, I walk, and I take part in many kinds of fitness training, including kickboxing. Nothing limits me now. This is where I stand today. I have grown. I lifted myself from a place that felt like rock bottom to where I am today. After experiencing this kind of journey, you begin to see that anything in life feels possible. I'm going to share with you the 3 keys that were most meaningful in her healing process, how it helped unlock the full healing potential. I will explain exactly what we did with each of these keys, and at the end I'll also show you what she managed to achieve. By the way, all the photos and videos in this video are courtesy of Vicky. Our first meeting was on Zoom, and she was lying in bed, she was at home, she was in a state in which she couldn't do much more than that. One of the first questions that I asked her is, okay, so you're suffering from pain, I can see the suffering, I can see that you're in a hard, difficult place, but what can you explain about pain? What do you know about pain? Her answer, like many of the patients that I meet, was describing the sensation. She said that it hurts in the lower back, on the left side, and beyond that she couldn't explain more about the pain mechanism. So, of course, she was after doing many medical examinations, going through imaging procedures, blood tests, and everything came basically normal. In these cases, which is the case for 85% of the people with chronic low back pain, there's no medical explanation. And knowing what is happening with the pain mechanism itself could be very helpful. So the first thing that I offered are 2 explanations of how pain is created. One is the more modern science-based explanation that says that pain is like a danger signal that is produced by our brain. When we feel safe, there's less pain, and when we feel that there's a threat, there's more pain. This is already something that puts us in a completely different place, because pain could be changed. If we only can connect with the sense of safety, then pain will reduce over time. It means it's manageable, it means it can also heal. The other explanation that Vicky liked more was an explanation offered by Dr. John Sarno. Dr. Sarno was a rehabilitation doctor in New York, and already in the 70s he offered this explanation. He met many people with chronic low back pain that didn't have other medical diagnoses, and he postulated that pain in those instances, chronic pain, is created by the brain as an emotional defense mechanism. What happens is that, of course, according to Dr. Sarno, is that when the brain senses that there's some danger, it could be also an emotional trigger, it diverts those repressed emotions and creates instead a physical reaction. This reaction is a constriction of blood vessels to specific areas of the body, for instance, the low back. When blood vessels constrict, less oxygen flows to this area, and as a result, we experience pain. So Vicky liked this explanation more and started using it. The implications here are very meaningful, because this whole process, this pain, which is very real, it's completely harmless, and it's also reversible. When people connect to this understanding, what happens is that it creates a sense of relaxation within them. This relaxation over time reduces the level of pain. So that was the first step, reframing the pain, reframing the whole experience and putting it within a framework of something that could be managed and could be reversed over time, which brought about a lot of relaxation and ease. But that was not enough alone. In order for us to really understand something, we have to act on it. That was our next step. By the way, if this resonates with you, I've prepared for you a starter kit with more meaningful resources that can help you learn more about the pain mechanism in the brain and in the body. So check out the link below this video. Our next step would be to act on this knowledge, on this new knowledge. But here, Vicky was lying in bed. She couldn't do many things. She couldn't function at home. She couldn't work. She basically at times couldn't move. So how can we make her or allow her to go back, for instance, to physical activity? And then we started communicating around this, and I offered her a few options. First, I said, okay, so let's say that your first step would be to wear the sports clothes. But then, again, she was lying in bed, she was really suffering, and she told me, honestly, I don't think I can do that. So what we needed to do is to find a very minimal step, a very minimal first step that will help her start going in this direction. And eventually, after a lot of conversation around this, we decided that her first step would simply be to take out her sports clothes from the closet, put them on their bed just beside her, to get used to their presence in her life. This sounds like a very minimal step, but actually what it did was to lay the ground for further improvements later on. Because now with this small step, she managed to get used again to the idea that she would be able to wear those clothes, she would be able to feel safe doing sports, and this sowed the seeds for the future. So it took a while and the clothes were there on her bed, and at a certain point she managed to put on the socks and then put on the shoes and put on the other clothes and managed to walk to the elevator. So this of course wasn't complete workout session, but it was the beginning of a movement in the right direction. So over weeks she managed to go outside with the sports clothes, and then she managed to walk 100 meters, 200 meters, then half a kilometer, then 1 kilometer, and then more and more. It took weeks, but she managed to do another step every week towards her goal. So this is an important technique. What we're doing here is we're looking at goals that might seem, for someone who's bedridden, might seem like impossible. And then what we do is we break them down into very, very, very small steps. That was already very good, and it put her in a completely different place. But then there was another twist in the plot. There was another obstacle we needed to undo. The more activity she gained, the better she felt. But then what would happen is that she would feel better, and after a while, an intense fear would creep in and take over her. And it could happen any time of the day, and especially it happened during morning time. And with each round of fear like that, there was also an increase in intensity of the back pain. So it was like an up and down sort of phase. What we needed to do next was to address those fears, and I needed to find a way to teach Vicky how to release those fears. And then I had an idea. Before her back pain, she used to work as a kindergarten teacher. And then I offered her, what if we address those fears as if they were little children in your kindergarten? So let's try to meet this fear that you're now encountering. So she shared with me that she felt the fear that the pain would come. She wakes up in the morning, and then first thing she starts thinking about the pain that will come during the day. Let's think about this fear, I suggested, as a small kid in your kindergarten. And she started describing how his hair looks. It was a bit sloppy and all over the place. And he was like this very aggressive kid that would interfere with everybody else's activities and do a lot of noise and draw a lot of attention. And then she started tending this kid, this imaginary kid within her, as a kindergarten teacher, as the adult that she is, and started soothing him and giving him other activities in her imagination. And gradually this fear became a very nice kid. She made friends with this fear or kid in her imagination. And afterwards, whenever such fears arose in her, she got into the position of being a kindergarten teacher and tending to the kids in her garden. The fears became her kids, became her children in a way. And in this way, she managed to reduce them, alleviate them, and relax them over time. And that was a huge step forward. And by the way, ever since, I've been using this technique with many of my patients. And if you want to give it a go, I've also added a link to this technique below this video. So check it out after watching this. At a certain point, we ended our sessions, and then I didn't hear from her for many months. And I think it was after 3 or 4 months since our last session, she wrote me an email, and I was so excited and happy to read this email. She shared with me that she managed to go to a vacation with her 4 kids. She enjoyed with them, she played with them, she lifted them on her hands, and she even went with them to a water park. And that was so joyous and so exciting to read this email. And it was an affirmation and confirmation that her healing journey has been concluded successfully. And then after that, she prepared a video of her recovery, and take a look at what she managed to achieve. If you're suffering from chronic pain, or if someone you know, or maybe one of your clients is suffering from chronic pain, let me know how this resonates with you. What are your experiences? What techniques help you, and what challenges you meet? I'm really looking forward to hearing that. And if you want to learn a brain retraining technique that can help you alleviate the pain, watch this video here that will teach you exactly how to do it.